Hello everyone, today I'm sharing how to translate operational thinking into design language. This alignment method works great. This is a common bottleneck many businesses encounter after repeated back and forth between operations and design. Because the reality is often, operations explains things clearly, and design works diligently. But the result doesn't seem to serve the intended goal. You might think, does the designer not understand operations? Is the communication inadequate? But the truth is, the problem isn't understanding, but rather that the language hasn't been translated. First, the conclusion. Operations and design speak two languages. Operations are talking about customer acquisition, conversion, retention, click-through rate, dwell time. Design is executing visuals, structure, hierarchy, contrast, rhythm. If there's no translation process, the designer can only guess. It's not that the design isn't cooperating, but rather that the operational thinking hasn't been translated. 2. Why does directly throwing operational goals to design inevitably lead astray? Many requests are given like this. This image needs to improve conversion rates. This page is mainly for attracting new users. This campaign needs to be more click-worthy. These statements are clear from an operations perspective, but from a design perspective, they are almost impossible to execute because designers don't know what's the focus, what needs to be sacrificed, which behavior should the visuals serve. The goal is the result. Design needs the basis for judgment. Third, for an operational strategy to be implemented, it must undergo 3 translations. The truly effective alignment method is to translate the operational goals layer by layer into language that the designer can use. The first layer of translation, translating operational goals into user behavior. Don't talk about design yet. First answer this question: what do you want the user to do? Instead of, we need to improve conversion rates. For example, break it down as, is it stopping? Is it clicking through? Is it scrolling down? Is it placing an order immediately? One page, one image, can only serve one core behavior. If this step is omitted, the design will inevitably be evenly distributed. Second layer of translation, translating user behavior into information priority. Once you know what does the user want to do, the next step is, for this behavior, what does the user need to see first? For example, to click on. The first thing to understand is the benefit to read further. Eliminate one core doubt. To place an order, reduce hesitation, not add more selling points. This step determines the order of information, not the visual appeal. 6. Third layer of translation, translating information priority into design trade-offs. The final step is when you truly enter the design phase. You need to clearly tell the designer which information must be emphasized, which can be downplayed, which can be omitted. Note: design is not about expressing everything, but about helping with trade-offs. When trade-offs are clear, the design will naturally align with operational goals. 7. A very useful operations design alignment template. You can use these 4 sentences directly. Core goal. The user's desired action is. For this action, the first thing the user must see is. Other information that can be downplayed, deferred is. If there is a visual conflict, prioritize. These 4 sentences can basically solve 80% of the problem of operations and design not being on the same page. 8. A practical example to help you understand this method. For example, you're creating a main image for a Douyin TikTok video. Incorrect approach. This main image needs to improve conversion rates. Correct translation. User behavior. Willing to pause for 3 seconds when scrolling to this image. Key information. This is XX that even beginners can use. De-emphasized content, parameters, secondary selling points. When priorities conflict, better to be less refined than to be easily understood. You'll find design suddenly becomes much easier. 9. Why does this method significantly reduce rework? Because it doesn't solve how to draw it better, but rather what constitutes drawing it correctly. When to stop. When the judgment criteria are prioritized, modification becomes convergence, rather than repeated trial and error. A word of truth for those often caught between operations and design. You're not incapable of communication. You've simply missed a step. Translation. When you translate operational language into a language that design can execute, design isn't an obstacle, but an amplifier. In short, transforming operational thinking into design language is not about endless explanations, but about structured alignment. First, define user behavior, then prioritize information, and finally make design trade-offs. When this process runs smoothly, design will truly serve operations, instead of each department talking past each other and working independently.